Hello everyone and welcome again to another tutorial, and today what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at some variable types and starting on some arrays. I know my previous videos are kind of not explaining it that well, so I thought I'll make another video about this explaining it better, and my arrays video kind of cuts off for the previous video. So right now all I have is a simple scene. I've got one script attached to a camera and it's a string tutorial. So let's just open this up, and what we can do is we can just create a few variables, and I'll tell you about them. um, oh, we also have this start method which Unity should run when we click play. Okay, so uh, there's a lot of different variable types, and usually we use variables just to store data. So for example, if you want to store player score, you would use a variable to do that, kind of like that. So you can have an int, which is basically a number. It can be between, well, it can be any positive or negative number. It does have a limit, and it will go into those in a bit. But all you need to know is any negative or positive number, you can use an int to store it. You have to give it a name. If you can see, I called it Bob. So whenever you're using it anywhere, you can say whatever. So for example, if you're printing something out in our console, this is how you print stuff out, debug.log. So what you would do is say, can you print whatever is inside Bob, which is 5, so it's just going to print 5. Okay, so that's how the int kind of works. So double, there's a double, and that just means that it can be a number with a decimal point, and it can be negative or positive. So it's the same thing as an int, but it can be there could be a decimal point as well. And the float is kind of just the same thing as a double, but it's a bit less accurate, I think. So let me create this. Apple equals to 5.5, and there is a problem with the float. Like, you need to put, well, not really a problem, but just a thing you need to do. You need to put an F next to the float to tell it it's a floating point number. It's not a double. And Unity really likes to use floats a lot. So we'll see floats quite a lot. And as I was saying, there's a kind of a maximum for all of these int, double, float. Like, you can only have so many, because they usually, what they do is they reserve a place in memory to store them, and you can't have more than that space, because then it'll just won't be right. So to figure out how much you can store in an int or a double or a float, what you can do is just do double, well, let's do int first, int dot max value, and it should tell us, and double dot log, oh, double at double, if I can spell it right, there we go, double max value, and float dot max value. Let's check this out, and let's see what we get. Okay, um, so with the int we got this number. So this is the amount. This isn't like the largest number you can have, because I can have bigger than this number. So for example, if I can easily put this number here, and it will still work fine. This just means that you can't have this many kind of zeros next to it. So, or it can't be in length, it can't be bigger than that, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think I've explained it correctly. Yeah, so it can't be bigger than this number. And it's the same thing with the double and the float, but since the double and the floats have a really big number, so what it did was it did just did, as you can see, e plus 308. So it's just 308 zeros after the 1. And same thing with the float. After the 3 there are 38 zeros. So that's just what that means. Okay, so we covered this, but what if you want to store letters and numbers? Well, you can do that as well with char. And what char does is just stores a single letter. And the way we signify a single letter is two apostrophes. So you would just do a, something like that. There's also a string. Uh, let's call this s equals to, let's see, you can put anything you like in here. If you want to put a quotation, because we start and end it with a quotation, so you can't really put just a quotation, otherwise the program will be like, oh, you're ending the string and then you're creating a new one here, but you didn't end it. So what you do is you put a slash quotation, and then it will ignore the slash and think of the quotation as being in the string. You can also do slash n for a new line, and there's a whole bunch of other things you can do. Uh, oh, one thing I should mention, if you want to put a slash, then you just do double slash. Also, if you want to ignore the slashes, what you can do is press type at the start, and what that will do is it will ignore the slashes, kind of like a directory thing to do that. So if you copy paste the directory and you don't really want to change all of these slashes to this, then what you would basically do is just put an @ symbol. So let's just leave this like this. And what else? I think that's about it. There's only one more thing that I think I should tell you before we continue. Uh, there's also this thing called the enum, and let's just give it a name called types. And then what we can do is let's do types of computer components, because that kind of makes sense. So graphics card, we can have graphics card, and then comma, and then we can have what else? Processor, and we can also have motherboard and a hard drive. Okay, that's all we're going to do for now. So what you can do with this enum thing is you can tell the user to only pick one thing. So right now, if you hover over these, you can see uh, like graphics card is set to 0, and then processor 1, motherboard 2. That's just like the default thing. You can actually change the numbers that you assign them, like 50, 51, 40, oh, 10, if you want to do that for some reason. So you can do that. And what you can do with this is you can say, I want types of, let's just call it T, equals to types dot uh, processor. So you can only have one of these things in this uh, enum kind of type, I guess. And you can kind of create a switch as well to do that. So you can put a T in here and say, oh, if it is processor, then do whatever is in here. If it was motherboard, then do whatever is in here. And if it's none of the above, then do whatever's in here. So that kind of makes sense. You can learn more about switches by just searching on the web. I'm pretty sure there's a tutorial out there, so I'm not going to go into it that much. But that's about it. Okay, now let's go into arrays. So we're going to create a double array. Why not? So what an array is, basically it is kind of like a list. So you need to do this to create an array, and you can actually have an empty array. You can just say I want an array of 5, and that's it. And then it will store like random values, or not random, but null values. But in a double you can't have a null, so it will just store 0 in every single value. Or you can define every single value, like doing this, and we can say 2, 5, 6. I want these. Oh, what's the problem with it? Oh, I forgot. You need to have these two brackets here. So usually what you would do is you can put the length, which is 3 right now, but because if we change the length then you'll have to change it here. It's just easier to not put in the length, but and then the computer should, or C# should be able to know what length it is. Okay, uh, what else? There's one more thing you should know. Uh, with I don't know why that's there. With double, or with, sorry, with a list or an array, I should say, you can't change its length after it's defined. So right now we can't do 5 because there's no 5 value. It'll just give us an error. And if you do dot length, which is its length, you can't change it because it's read only. To be able to change the length of a array, what you need to do is you need to recreate the array. So you would do something like bob equals to new double, call it 4 because we want it one more than the last one, and then because we created a new, it doesn't have any values, so we're going to copy over all of the old values. So it's kind of like a little hassle you need to do, so you have to be careful. But arrays are really fast, and um, they're basically really good to use. They don't take up that much space as well. So let's add something else here so I can give you another alternative, because I'm pretty sure you're interested in all the alternatives. So you can also have a list, and you can have a list type of double. So we want doubles in our list, and let's say s, or list equals to new double. So that's how you create a list. And the way the list works is kind of weird. You don't really define it here. What you do is just do new list and then empty brackets. I'm not sure if we can put stuff in the, oh, we can. Okay, so we can put a capacity and a list of lists here. But usually I just leave it empty, and the way I define it is just add items to it, because that's what the list is for. So you can add 5.5 to it, you can add another value 2.2 or 2.0, and then you can remove values. So you're like, oh, I don't not remove, and let's just remove at. So I don't want the value at number 0, which is 5.5, so it's going to remove that. So it's only 2.0 going to be left. So that's a list. You can obviously change the type of whichever thing you want. So if you want an int, you can use an int. If you want a float, you can use a float. And if you're kind of transferring stuff from a double to an int, it might give you a few errors. To fix that, all you need to do is just do math f in Unity. In normal C# it's usually math, but in Unity just do math f dot and then round to int. There you go. That's how you do it. So it takes a float and then it converts it into an int, or you can just do round, which converts a float into a float, but you need to kind of tell it where, which kind of how to round it. So you want to round it 3 decimal places, 4, or wherever you want. Okay, so that is just the list and arrays aspect of it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a multi-dimensional array. So the way these work are is you just put another square here, and it's basically kind of like a table, and each of the, let me open paint.net to explain this better. So you have a list, and each of the list contains another list. So kind of like this. And a good way to think of it is a table, because that's what it is. So if you want to create kind of like a table and store a lot of data, you can create a 2D array. There's also a 3D array. You can keep on going until like you're satisfied. You can create 5-dimensional arrays just by putting 5 squares. Okay, so we're only going to be looking at 2, I think, for this video. So the way to do it is you would first create the double, give it a length, and then you need to go through all of them because they're set to null currently. Bob.length. This is how you initialize this. Then you do bob I equals to new double, and then there you go. We created a 5 by 5 array right now. Yeah, so first of all, we're creating our downward thing, and then for each of the item, we're gonna create our next list that goes along with. And you need to put this here to indicate that it is a 2-dimensional array. Here, this is just a 1-dimensional array inside the 2 dimensions, kind of. Yeah. And there is an alternative to this. What you can do is you can just put a comma here, and I generally don't use this very often, so I'll try my best to explain it, but I feel like I might fail. And the way I think this works is you just always have a comma. So it's kind of like coordinates. So you can be like, I want something that's at 5 or 1 comma 2 and set it to 5.5 or for 5.45, I don't know. So there you go, that's how that works. You can also do this if you like. You can have multiple commas. You can put in as many as you like. It doesn't really care how many comments you put in. Okay. You can also initialize this one like this, and then you can do new double, and then 5 comma 5, new double, 2 comma 2. So hopefully that works or not. Oh, there we go. Forgot this. So as you can see, we have a list, and inside it we have this one list and then another list. And this list contains 2 values and then another 2. So it's a 2 by 2 table if you want to think of it that way. And that is pretty much it for this tutorial, I think. And we can have a look at the other things in the next tutorial. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any feedback, and have a nice day.